When it comes to video games, are you really okay with a hand-me-down female character? I mean, seriously, isn't that kind of insulting that instead of creating a brand new character with their own personality traits and everything like that, isn't it a little insulting that they just decided to switch the gender of an already existing character?
Okay, I'm not much of a gamer. I do play some video games, but the ones I play are either you build your own characters or they don't have characters in them. I can give this a try though, because I think it's a fair point. I grew up in the late 80s and early 90s when the Smurfette principle was still a trope that was very, very common, and another very common trope was the female version of an existing male character, and that always got to me. I would like to see more female representation of female characters who just exist on their own in all media, who don't have who aren't a female counterpart to a male character that already exists. However, however, I will point out that when people say they want more female representation, or LGBTQ representation, or people of color, or disabled people represented, or various intersections thereof, we get yelled at and told, make your own stories, by reactionary saddos. Now, I actually am a writer, so I'm open to the idea, but it's just kind of unfair that we get this damned if you do, damned if you don't response, as if people don't want to see the issue solved at all. Unsurprising.
Why are you so obsessed with checking your privilege or demanding that other people check their privilege? Not sure what you thought, but this guilt-ridden virtue signaling does nothing to help me, my life, or my community.
Great. You again. Firstly, if you want to have an adult conversation, please drop the loaded buzz phrases like virtue signaling. That's little more than a thought-terminating cliche designed to shut down conversations, not unlike SJW itself. Secondly, checking one's privilege is relevant because people who are underprivileged in one area might benefit from privilege in another. For example, I am black, female, queer, and disabled, yet I have cis privilege and come from a middle-class background. I don't feel guilty because of that, nor do I feel victimized because of my blackness, queerness, or disability. I'm just aware of all of that, and for example, will speak up on gay and bi rights issues, but don't try to dominate conversations about trans issues.
Why do you treat black people like infants, as if we can't debate, as if we can't have a civil discussion? If we break out into violence, then it's because we've been oppressed and we should be allowed to do that.
I have never felt treated like an infant by any of my allies. If I did, you can bet I'd call them on it. Also, what's with this we stuff? Have you participated in a violent crime? I thought you conservatives were all about treating everyone like individuals, or is that only when it's convenient? Also, I really wish people would be more clear about what they mean when they're describing SJWs, because the way you're using it seems like you're specifically describing white progressives who feel the type of white guilt that guy T alluded to. Which is fine, but I and other black progressives and hard leftists have been called SJWs as well. So if you guys could just decide on one clear definition, that'd be great.
Why are you always screaming?
Child, I'm sitting here talking in a very calm voice. You're the one who's screaming, not me.
If our society hates women so much, why do men try so hard to make women happy?
Well, there speaks a man who knows nothing of the nice guy trademark symbol mentality.
Why do you call black people white for having a different opinion than you? For being interested in things other than black stereotypes? Aren't you the same people that complain when people make assumptions about you based on your skin color?
Okay, again, I think SJWs in this context are being addressed as white activists. Perhaps. He may also be talking to black leftists who call black conservatives white, which I'm not going to do as I'm trying to elevate the discourse. It's one thing to not adhere to black stereotypes. I can't sing or dance. I'm a vegan. I love My Little Pony. I love goth aesthetic. I let my dog sleep on my bed and lick me in the face, for heaven's sake. It is, however, going to raise eyebrows when you actively support causes, political ideologies, and leaders who work against the interests of black people, yourselves included. And I'm going to be honest, I think you're just a shitty person if you support gutting welfare and education, or an anarcho-capitalist. Seriously, how do you even think that's a thing?
How do you think censorship is the best way to deal with bigotry and racism?
Hi, no one's saying it is. Of course, by censorship, I assume you just mean being banned from social media sites, which is not censorship, for God's sakes, people read some books. You have that guy T in this very video, who I know is a devout believer in the good old free market. Maybe he can explain to you that private companies are allowed to make choices about their own platforms, including who they will or won't allow on them, although he might be biased given his suspension from Twitter.
Why do you guys complain about the transatlantic slave trade, yet never talk about Muslim slave trades?
Name.
Well, I don't know if it's just because I live in the U.S., but I don't really know much about how much, if at all, the Arab slave trade impacts those regions of North Africa to this day. I do know that the transatlantic slave trade has had lasting impacts in North America, so yes, that's what I talk about, and I understand that systemic racism is still an issue, so I talk about that as well.
Me 3. Right now, I want to hear it. 3 rights that men have that women don't.
So sick of that non-argument. Demonstrates such a simple-minded view of the world. It just shows that people don't really understand. It's not just a matter of having rights or not having rights. There might be rights people are at risk of losing. Like in the US, the religious right has been fighting tooth and nail to strip reproductive rights from women for decades. They're still trying to. It's like, and there are ways around discrimination laws. You know, they can't say, oh, we're not hiring you because you're black, or because you're a woman, or because you're a black woman, disabled woman, whatever. It's more complex than that, but you don't want to realize that.
Why do you guys claim that black on black crime doesn't exist?
Pretty much because, well, A, it's usually used as a derailing tactic. Kind of a, what about this? Red herring argument. Secondly, because, well, it really doesn't for this, like, any more than white on white crime exists. I will include links below that explain this in a more understandable way than I probably am right now.
Why do you get more upset over the amount of black characters in the TV series than the amount of black homicide victims in Chicago?
I don't know, T. How come you can't ask a decent question to save your life?
If black lives truly matter, why do you guys actually go against police brutality, but not against the brutality on black crime?
Oh my word! How many times can the exact same question be asked in differently worded ways? Do you have anything original?
Why do you act like we can't defend ourselves?
Isn't this the exact same question you asked at the beginning, the infant's question, just reworded?
Why the fuck do you wear mental illness like a badge of honor when 99% of you have nothing wrong with you and you've spent just too much time on Tumblr self-diagnosing?
First of all, if you want to talk about how romanticizing mental illness is dangerous, I'm all for it and I agree with that. But why don't you start crying about self-diagnosis when you try seeking a diagnosis for an illness as an adult and find out exactly how difficult it is to actually find one?
If it is indeed victim blaming to say that if you drink less alcohol, or if you try your best not to put yourself in a dangerous situation by drinking more alcohol than your body can properly metabolize, is it really a bad thing if it reduces the amount of rapes that occur?
No! No!
Okay. First of all, if you want to do the whole pensive chin scratching thing, try having some actual profound thoughts to match it. Secondly, a drunk rape victim doesn't initiate a rape. A rapist does. Why is that so hard to understand?
You guys talk a big game against white supremacy and Christianity and all that good stuff. But when the evils of Islam are happening not only in the Middle East, but also in Europe, you guys are quieter than a church mouse. Why is that?
Well, A, I don't live in Europe. B, white supremacy has actually killed people in my nation very recently. C, Islam doesn't make people any more violent than any other Abrahamic religion. Y'all were pretty quiet over that mosque attack in Canada last year, not to mention the Las Vegas shooting, Heather Heyer being murdered, the list goes on.
When it comes to the mythical pink tax that you ladies love to talk about, if men and women products are so similar, if you believe that they are exactly the same, then why the hell do you keep buying female products? Are you retarded?
First of all, learn some new words, doofus. Secondly, how do you know what they buy? I mean, I know hard-rightists are convinced they know everything about everyone ever, but you don't. You don't.
You said finally getting a black president would somehow help black people. It didn't. So why should I believe you when you say that finally getting a female president will somehow help women?
Yeah, Obama didn't. Yeah, Clinton won't. Yeah, presidents won't bring us closer to freedom. But neither will the neo-feudalist world you want to build.
Why do white SJWs feel that we need their voice in order to be heard, or that we need them to survive?
Girl. Do you know why I'm friends with and, I appear on hangouts with people like Kevin Logan, Christy Winters, and other white people who commonly get called SJWs, as meaningless a term as that is? It's not because they think I need them. I mean, most people I'm friends with and fraternize with now understand at this point in my life that if you're still in it, it's because I want you here, not because I need you. I didn't even tell any of them I was making this video. Shoot.
Why do you guys claim that all white people are racist?
Avenue Q says everybody's a little bit racist. Nobody bats an eye. Milo Stewart or anybody else points out the internalized biases that everyone has. Everyone loses their freaking minds.
If you think everything is problematic, isn't it quite possible that everything's fine for the most part and you're the one with the problems?
Me? Child. You're the one who's screaming over nothing. That's right. The woman who loves My Little Pony is calling you a child.
Why does the concept of colorblindness bother so many of you if it makes less racist people? I mean, isn't it a good thing if these people actually, treat other people as people instead of always focusing on their race?
I'm going to sum this up as simply as I can. If you can't see race, you can't see racism either. That's the problem. I mean, if you are colorblind, then you can't see discrimination based on skin color, ethnicity, etc. That doesn't create less racist. It creates more ignorance.
Why do you go out of your way to highlight everybody's differences and make safe, exclusive spaces for them, but you always seem to be the first ones to complain about segregation?
Oh my. Help me out again, Lily.
organization that pretends to be an allegory for the military. In fact, this is where that rhetoric about safe spaces comes from. A safe space is a small area set aside in a university, akin to a student lounge, where some students, typically LGBT, can relax without being subjected to the racist, sexist, homophobic, or transphobic rhetoric of their peers. In fact, their existence implies that these rules are not enforced on the rest of the campus. It's actually better for conservatives that these rooms exist, because without them, their vulgar nonsense would simply be banned campus-wide. But many conservatives hate the idea that students can be in a situation where they can be exempt from their nonsensical proselytizing, so they've spun a narrative that safe spaces are a place where people can hide from different opinions and ban anything that doesn't fit the progressive.
Why people in Black Lives Matter seem to think that rioting in your own community, destroying your own businesses, and doing all these things are going to help bring people into the fold. Spoiler, it's not helping at all.
Question, did Black Lives Matter ever riot? When? I didn't hear about them having a riot. I've heard about a lot of protests. A lot of the rioting was done by people in that community because they were so incensed by so much injustice. As MLK once said, that violence is the language of the unheard. It's just like nobody comes there and nobody hears what's going on there unless when anything else happens. So that's worth considering. Also, I just find it strange that so many conservatives just associate everything with Black Lives Matter. Apparently even black conservatives. I'm not saying anything, but it does kind of make you think, doesn't it?
Let's just be honest here. In your mind, there is never a point in time where men won't have privilege over women. You're gonna be fighting this battle until you die, aren't you?
Of course, Pumpkin. When we just do it just to annoy you.
What gives you the right to tell me that black-on-black crime is an illegitimate concern when I, as a young black man, have to live with the reality that the demographic most likely to end my life is other young black men?
What?
I swear, if I hear another question about black-on-black crime, I'm going to... I mean, as aggravating as the questions white men have for SJWs was, they at least didn't ask the same question worded differently like 5 times.
What is your aversion to black people liking the Constitution? Because my free speech is in there. My right to own a gun is in there. And I kind of like that.
What?
Sure. Liking the Constitution is great and all, but you only named like 2 amendments. I mean, what else do you like in the Constitution? I mean, you say you like the Constitution as a whole. Can you name more than 2 amendments? Just wondering.
Why do a lot of you say that you're inspired by Martin Luther King Jr., but then get mad when people say all lives matter? Because that is the very basis, that is the very foundation of his dream.
Again, you're shouting, and I'm not sure why. You seem really just angry. Not trying to tone police or anything, I'm just wondering. You seem to be in a room all by yourself. But to answer your question, yes, MLK wanted a world where all people would be treated as equals, not be judged by the color of their skin or anything like that. He didn't want to get there by pretending like we were already there. And that's the problem. It's like, when you counter Black Lives Matter with All Lives Matter, it's like, yeah, that's great and all, like, intellectually people already know that, but not all lives are being treated like they matter. That's the whole point.
Why does this so-called Eurocentric point of beauty bother you so much if you still get men to date you? I mean, if you're still dating men, would that not mean that you're attractive to someone? So why do advertisements bother you so much when in reality it's a proven fact that you're beautiful to someone?
What? I mean, seriously. What? That... Dumb! That question was just dumb. You started off by asking about Eurocentric beauty standards, and then, like, asking, well, then why do you date men? It's just like... I don't... I don't understand. Did you think that was a good question? It just... I can't. I can't. I'm trying, but people are not making that easy.
Why do so many of you have nose rings? Isn't that cultural appropriation?
1, I don't have a nose ring. 2, stop whining about cultural appropriation.
Why did you make riot shaming a thing? Seriously, it makes no logical sense. When you riot, you should be shamed. The people who do go rioting should be shamed. They should be saying, hey, that's a bad thing. I know you talk about the bigotry of low expectations, but come on now.
What?
Okay, so I have literally never heard the term riot shaming, like anywhere. Looks like he just screenshot a headline and just did pretty much the standard conservative thing a lot of people do on Twitter, where they screenshot a headline and retweet it to all their fans, so all their fans can get angry and upset about it, and then snicker about how everyone else is triggered. It's just like, wow. Okay, so if riot shaming is like a term a lot of people use, and if anyone's like encouraging rioting, I'd really like to know about it, but I have literally never heard that, so moving on.
How do you cherry pick the dictionary? I mean, you use the definition of feminism on any given day to try to prove to us what feminism is about. But when I go to the same book and pull out the definition of egalitarianism, then you look at me like I'm stupid and tell me that that's not valid.
As a person who studied language in school and is planning to go back to study more language, I can safely say that if you base your entire worldview around a dictionary definition of anything, you're kind of stupid. You really just are. I don't use the dictionary definition of feminism for a reason. I don't use dictionary definitions of really most things for a reason. It's incomplete. There's a lot that can be left out. There's a lot that's left out.
When you get rid of Western values, which has treated everyone a lot better than other cultures, what are you going to replace it with?
Honey, you do realize that the people who trumpet Western values the loudest, how can I put this nicely? They don't like your black ass either. If they had a chance, they'd purge North America and Europe of all people of color, including you. Doesn't matter how much you kiss up to them. That's the way it is.
What exactly is your end game? Like, at what point would you acknowledge that our society is equal, or that there are no systemic oppressions or anything going on? What are your victory conditions, I guess, is a better question to ask.
When society does finally treat people like equals, that'll be the end of it. And again, we're not going to get there by pretending we already are there. So maybe you guys can kind of either lead, follow, or get out of the way.
You guys complain about systemic racism. However, how come you don't consider affirmative action systemic racism?
Because it's not. In fact, it's been found that the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action are white women. That's worth thinking about.
Why do you call me a coon just for having a different opinion than you? Do you even know what a coon is or what an Uncle Tom is?
You'll notice that throughout this video, I have not used those phrases once. However, can you maybe stop painting being against social progress as just a different opinion when, like, it actually impacts real people? It's like when you cut Social Security, when you support cutting Social Security, when you support cutting benefits, welfare, education, that affects real people. It's like it's not a different opinion like, oh, I like this topping on my pizza, or I like this flavor of soda, or I think this is the best one true pairing ship in Big Hero 6. By the way, if you think it's anyone other than this one, you're wrong. It's like why don't people understand that their opinions have actual real world consequences when they're put into place?
Why do you guys call me an Uncle Tom?
Just to annoy you, can I please stop hearing the same question 50 times?
If you have such a problem with the fact that there's not a lot of women in STEM, then why is it that you are not in the STEM field right now? Yes, you. I'm talking to you.
Because while I enjoy science, I like books and the arts more. I think we shouldn't downplay the importance of the arts. I think a lot of reactionaries and conservatives who like to call themselves skeptics could use some studying of the liberal arts, and maybe it would make them better at critical thinking and analyzing what they read.
If you hate America so bad, why don't you just leave? That boat and plane to Africa is right there.
Yeah, let's continue this train of thought. To avoid getting into a car accident, don't drive. To avoid getting obese, don't eat fast food. To avoid getting eaten by a dog, don't have a pet dog. To avoid having to clean your house, fuck it, just burn it down. Hooray for logic!
When you complain about injustice and then proceed to shut down anyone engaging in discussion about these injustices because they don't conform to your narrative, what do you think is going to be the end result? Emotional tantrums don't lead to reform. They lead to broken windows and tear gas.
You're boring. Politics aside, you are boring. If only anarcho-capitalists could come up with any original thoughts of their own.
Do you honestly think that ethnic minorities can't be racist just because they don't have a lot of societal power? And if that is the caveat to why they can't be racist, then wouldn't that definition by itself really more imply classism than racism?
Another one of my favorite arguments, because people just make it as if classism and racism have nothing to do with each other. It's and you don't even need to look that far to find evidence that they have everything to do with each other. I will include links below. It's you can go and read them.
Why do you guys think that white people owe you money for reparations, even though they're not the original slave owners?
Have you ever read any of the arguments for reparations, or how the transatlantic slave trade affects black people's lives today? I mean, you might read that kind of stuff and come away still disagreeing with it, but it's at least you should read it, at least you should look into it.
If a feminist is bitching about inequalities in a forest and nobody is around to hear her, is she still wrong about everything that she says?
I don't know, boo-boo. Go ask Alexa. Alexa has all the answers.
Why do white SJWs pretend like they've owned a slave and they need to apologize for it?
Again, none of my white friends who have been called SJWs by people in this video and other people who just love all hating the same people together, they've never treated me like that. They treat me just like any other person. I don't know what kind of people y'all hang out with, but yeah, that's not my experience.
Why do you have to hijack everybody's functions and events and make it about yourself?
Okay, here I think he's talking about in Toronto, I believe, there was a chapter of BLM or some other anti-racist group that kind of disrupted a pride event. Firstly, there are people who are black and LGBT as well, myself included. They support. There was a hashtag going around, and it was no justice, no pride. It's like, so yeah, there are a lot of people who kind of just use these events that they are at anyway to support. I mean, to just speak out against police brutality, which also it disproportionately affects different minorities of all stripes. Disabled people, LGBT people, black people, other people of color, various intersections thereof. So, yeah.
How can you be up in arms and mourn the deaths of somebody who died innocently on your side, but when other people are killed, like, say for instance, white people or cops, you celebrate their deaths, despite the fact that those people were innocent also?
Yeah. If you can point to wherever this happened, that'd be really great.